Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm so glad that you're here. Tonight I'm going to talk about the compulsions that are testing and checking. And these have a lot of significance, very hard to recognize when it comes to individuals who are living with intrusive thoughts, images, sensations, feelings, with mental rituals. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Um, I have a lot of videos on this, but basically testing and checking gets very confused for acting on your thoughts, which of course, when you think you've acted on your thoughts, it is maybe I don't really have OCD. I am doomed now. I don't deserve anything. This means I probably would want the thoughts. And this is a really important topic to talk about tonight. Um, Pure OCD is the community name for individuals with mental or intrusive thoughts, images, sensations, feelings, and mental rituals. And it's also the name of my book, Pure OCD, The Invisible Side of Obsessive Compulsive Disorder, which walks you through my experience with living with Pure O. I'm a certified peer support specialist. I'm Chrissy Hodges, and I work with people one-on-one in groups and an online community where you can get weekly support through groups, peer support, events, classes, you name it. There's people from all over the world in there. It is a great place to get support and connection, which you deserve living with this isolating illness that's OCD. NoCD is also an app. Inside their app, you can connect to others, you can get psychoeducation, and they do ERP through telehealth in many places. So check them out at nocd.com or treatmyocd.com. Let's talk about testing and checking and why this is so important. Why this is so important is because when you are living with intrusive thoughts, images, feelings, sensations, see my last video on how important it is to understand that OCD can show up in many different ways, not just thoughts. Now, for the purpose of not having to say all four of those things, I'm probably just going to say intrusive thoughts. But no, I'm encompassing everything. When you are experiencing this, one of the hardest things is being able to recognize your compulsions because many of your compulsions are mental. And if they're not mental, they're going to be avoidance, right? And so avoidance is still something that to the naked eye, you don't see that you're even doing it. In fact, in your brain, you might think, I'm avoiding because there's danger, when in reality, there is no threat with OCD. And so you're avoiding for no reason, even though it feels safer and secure. Now, testing and checking is different, right? It's different in the way that if you're testing and checking, you may know that you're doing it, but someone else may not know. A lot of times testing and checking for Pure O is just normal everyday behavior. Let's take, for example, POCD. And I get this a lot with for people, and they say, I've acted on my intrusive thoughts. Okay, tell me how you've acted on your intrusive thoughts. Because this is the fear, and I'll get into that in a minute. I acted on it because I went to a birthday party for my niece and I picked her up and hugged her. Okay. So is that acting on your intrusive thoughts? No. People pick up their niece all the time. And so it's important to understand like the motivation and the intention behind picking up and hugging your niece at her birthday party. So a lot of times from an intention perspective with OCD, the intention is going to be I'm going to pick up my niece and hug her and hope that I don't get intrusive thoughts or intrusive sensations in my body. So now I'm holding my niece and I'm body scanning. Is there a feeling? Is something happening? Okay, now put my niece down. Usually when that happens, it's kind of like an exposure. There isn't that much that happens. Or if it does, it might be subtle, or if it does, it happens. And then there's alarm bells and panic. But what you were doing, you were testing and checking, which is very different than acting on thoughts, acting in a way of looking at it from the perspective of motivation, acting on thoughts from a malicious standpoint or from a desire enjoyable standpoint. That's a different ball game, right? This is acting with the motivation of testing and checking. So why is it a big deal of like acting on the thoughts, and why do people get really hung up on this? Well, first, for a lot of reasons. So you may Google OCD, or the more you read about OCD, what they'll say is OCD is ego dystonic. People don't want the thoughts. They'll never act on them. Well, anytime you hear anything definitive about OCD, you better believe OCD is going to take that shit out for a spin. If you're never going to act on them, OCD is going to prove to you that you will act on them. How is it going to do that? Testing and checking, which is a compulsion. It's not acting on it. It is intentionally doing something to prove or disprove something is real or not. So, how is that acting? From the standpoint of the motivation and tension of I'm going to enjoy this, I want to enjoy this, I'm doing this with the intention of fulfilling my desire. It is not like that for OCD. It is always going to be, well, when I use the word always, your OCD is going to take that out for a spin as well. It is likely and typically going to be I am doing this behavior to test and check whether or not I like it, whether I have a reaction to it, what my thoughts are going to do, what my groin is going to do, what my urges are going to do if it's harm OCD. But what happens is afterward. The afterward is where you're likely going to get very stuck. And this is a very, I don't want to say dangerous, but it is. It's a dangerous spot to be because now you're not in the moment anymore and you're just reflecting on the memory of it. So your intentions get skewed. Your ability to understand why you would do that in the first place gets skewed. And you might very well convince yourself, I did it from desire. I did it because I wanted to do it. No, you didn't. You did it because you were testing and checking. No matter what OCD says, 10 minutes after the fact, 10 hours after the fact, or 10 years after the fact, it doesn't matter. It was a test and a check. And so the danger zone typically for this is going to be the aftermath. It is the why would I do that in the first place? What does that mean about me? What does it mean about you? It means you were testing and checking because those are compulsions that go along with having OCD. Your brain is not going to accept that. Normal people that didn't have some sort of desire would never have done that. I put someone in danger. Like I said earlier, picking up your niece if you're dealing with POCD or harm OCD, right? Did you put your niece in danger by hugging her? This is where sometimes you have to step out objectively and get some perspective on the OCD and how the OCD is shift shaping into the need for you to believe you are malicious. Your intention was not pure. And that's what, unfortunately, after the compulsions, that's where we usually get stuck. It's not often in the compulsions, it's after in reflection. And when it comes to things like acting on it, so we'll take pornography, for example. This is a big one. So I'm going to watch, if I'm dealing with incest pornography, right? Or I'm sorry, if I'm dealing with incest, intrusive thoughts, images, whatever, I'm going to go watch incest porn because it is one of the most popular genres, by the way. And I'm going to watch it and I'm going to gauge my physical reaction in hopes that I don't get turned on, in hopes that I can't climax, in hopes that if I masturbate, like it doesn't feel good and I don't want to do it. So you will watch porn and your body scanning the scenario. Did you get an erection? Or as a woman, did you get aroused? Did you reach climax? If you did, was it because of the video or not? Now you're just judging everything where everything is getting convoluted. Maybe you didn't get aroused. Maybe you didn't climax. Maybe you turned the porn to something different and you climaxed. And then afterwards, you're thinking to yourself, but I started with the incest porn. So that must mean something. See, I started by acting on it. See, so it doesn't matter what you do. OCD is always going to take whatever it is and up the ante for you. Compulsions don't give you long-term relief. They are temporary relief that are just warning signs to that part of the brain that believes there's an actual threat when there's not. Every time you do a compulsion, You are showing that part of the brain, we are in danger, keep warning me. That's why the compulsion may feel okay at the time, and you may be like, okay, I just got the relief I needed. But 30 minutes later, but why would you do that in the first place? Why would you act on it in the first place? If you climax later to a different type of porn or just, a fantasy in your mind or something, it doesn't matter because it started with an incest porn. So that must mean something. That must mean it's real. Let me go test again. Now, with testing and checking, we test and check over and over and over and over and over. And you may not even know that you're testing and checking so much. Down the line, testing and checking can put you in a position where you're desensitizing to the feelings that you want to get, that you need to get, that you are looking for or not looking for in order to prove or disprove the thoughts, right? So you might habituate to that because you've tested and checked so much. You're now not getting any of the feelings that you need. This is where it gets really tough because now you think, oh my gosh, I'm getting to this place where I'm not able to get the relief that the testing and checking usually gets me to. So, maybe now you have tested and checked so much in regards to your groin and your arousal that the arousal non-concordance, which is what the groinal is so out of control, you don't even know anymore what you're getting aroused to or not because anything and everything can become a stimulus. Anything and everything can create the sensation because you have tested and checked so long. What are you going to mistake this for? Acceptance that now the intrusive thoughts are coming true. Acceptance. This is the backdoor spike. So the backdoor spike is I'm not getting anxiety anymore. I don't have disgust anymore. I don't have these feelings that I was relying on anymore in order to prove that the thoughts, images, and all that are real or not real. So this must mean I'm turning into what my brain is telling me I might be. This is a scary place to be. Totally normal though. If we come to rely on feelings, especially in regards to testing and checking, eventually we're going to habituate to them. Eventually that we're going to desensitize. They're not going to work anymore. This happens to so many people. It can happen before you get treatment and it can happen during treatment. During treatment, the goal is to lessen the anxiety because the anxiety is what's making us miserable. But when the anxiety lessens, we think, oh my God, I need the anxiety to make sure that this is a disorder. Do you see like how messed up that is? However, most of us go through that, and it is just part of the process. I want you to remember that when this is happening to you. It is called the backdoor spike. Stephen Phillipson, I think he coined that, and he's got articles on his website at ocdonline.com. Testing and checking gets so confused with I am acting on this because you can't see that you originally are doing it for the sake of proving and disproving something. It gets convoluted after the fact into why would I do it in the first place? The fallout from this is because I tested and checked, acted on, because that's what it's typically you're going to go to. My entire life is over. I can never forgive myself. I don't deserve anything because I intentionally did this. And this says this horrible thing about me. No, it doesn't. You know what it says about you? It says that you have OCD and you're performing compulsions. No matter how much OCD is distorting that in your brain, we have gone to so many different links trying to find proof. Your brain is going to want to make you believe that you've acted on it, so it will go into meta OCD. Now it's not OCD anymore. You are the deviant or the horrible person that you are so scared is deep down in there somewhere, but you're not. These are compulsions, and sometimes you have to choose to believe these are compulsions even though I know it's hard and you think, I don't deserve happiness, I'm not worthy anymore because I had the audacity to pick my niece up and hug her. Picking your niece up and hugging her because you love her is part of what we should be doing as human beings that love other human beings. Whether or not you were body scanning, whether or not you were scared, looking for proof or disproof, you did not harm that person. You did not harm yourself. This is part of living with OCD and testing and checking because a lot of times it's happening and you don't see it, or it is desperately looking for proof. You are confusing it with acting, which then makes you feel like a monster, like you don't deserve treatment and support. And that is absolutely not the case. This is so much more common than you know. And I bet there's some people watching this and you're like, "Oh my God, I've never heard this talked about." And you're scared that you're the only one. You are not. I hear this all the time, all the time. Now, I have a community of people who just get it, all from all over the world. We have all kinds of things, places you can connect with one another, support groups. It can be a safety net for you, or it can be something that you can go to when you really need it. So check it out in the description and join us whenever you need us because walking through this alone is a dark place. And I know you're scared to meet other people because you're scared you're going to find out you don't have OCD, or what if they hear your story and they think you don't have OCD, or you've done something so horrible that you're going to be judged. You're not going to be. Most people think that about their OCD and the things they've done until they meet other people and see you are no different than anyone else. So come join us when you need us. We will be there. And I hope that this helps if you're struggling with this testing and checking and confusing it with acting on the thoughts. You're not acting on the thoughts, you're performing compulsions. See you next time.